Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is one of those stories that, kind of remind me of the first time I started telling story times on YouTube. But anyway, before I jump into the story time, a little bit of a disclaimer. Don't go out and do things just because I talk about them in a story time. This is just for your entertainment only. So listen and enjoy, and let's jump right into this. So this story time takes place in 2016, okay? I had 3 friends of mine. I was hanging out with them, and me and these 3 friends had a plan that night that we were hanging out to do shrooms together. Now, at the time, I hadn't done anything like that in a long time. I was pretty much straight edge at this point, but it was a special occasion. My friend's birthday was happening, so he wanted me to do it with all of them, kind of like as his birthday gift to him. So I was like, you know what, whatever, like, what could go wrong, Now, that was an awful mindset to have, because midnight came along, and me and all these friends ate these shrooms together, and I can't remember the exact dose that I ate, but it was somewhere around 2 grams, alright? Now, I thought that would be light for me. I thought that I wouldn't really have much of an experience. I'd feel something, but not like a whole bunch of stuff. Well, when it kicked in, let's just say I definitely felt it. I was super just laughing and anxious at the same time, and also seeing visuals, and I was tripping myself out by thinking I was hearing things. I don't know, maybe I was hearing things. Either way, in terms of experience, things were up and down, basically, to say the least. But it wasn't necessarily the shrooms that made this the worst trip experience in the world, alright? What happens next is what makes this the worst experience for me. My friend, whose birthday it was, who wanted us to all do these shrooms with him, started having a full-blown panic attack, like just gasping for air, like freaking out. He said he needed an ambulance right away, like he was really freaked out. So pretty much all of my friends were like, yo man, like don't worry, you're good, you're just having a panic attack. And my friend kept saying, he's like, no, this isn't a panic attack, like something's wrong, I can't breathe, I need to go to the ER. Now, I'm not the type of dude to second guess somebody when they're saying they need help, okay? I'm not going to sit there and be like, nah, man, you're fine. Because nobody knows your body more than yourself, so if you're freaking out and you can tell something might actually be wrong, like, I'm not going to question that. So I told him, I'm like, yo, like, do you really think you need to go? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's go. And my friends were like, bro, like, are you sure about that? Like, dude, like, he's on shrooms. What if the cops, like, find out or something? I was like, dude, first of all, I doubt the cops are going to be at the hospital. Second of all, even if they found out we were all on shrooms, I don't think we would get in serious trouble compared to if we let our friend possibly die. Like, he's saying he can't breathe. I'm just going to take him in. Even if it's just a panic attack, the hospital will know what to do. So me and my friend walked downstairs out of his apartment, and we call an ambulance. Now, his anxiety was giving me anxiety and pretty much giving everybody anxiety, so even if we just sat inside and not went to the hospital, it would have still been a not good night. So this ambulance pulls up, and the paramedics get out, and my friend's gasping for air, like almost on his knees, like he can't walk, he's freaking out. And the paramedics help him get into the ambulance, then I get into the ambulance, and we start heading to the hospital. And they have him laying on the stretcher, and they're taking his vitals, and they're making sure that everything's okay. And one of the paramedics shows me that his oxygen levels, my friend's, are completely normal. So that's good. It means he wasn't suffocating to death, and it was probably just anxiety. His heart rate was pretty quick, but that's, pretty understandable considering he was having a panic attack. But this entire time on the way to the hospital, he only answered like 2 questions. It was his name, and he gave them his mom's phone number in case anything happened to him and they needed to contact her, because that's his emergency contact. So anyway, after he gives him that info, he completely just like zones out and just focuses on him panicking and doesn't answer any more questions. So now I'm the one left to deal with everybody for him, basically. And none of my friends came with me because they'd rather just sit inside at my friend's apartment, watch Netflix, eat junk food, and trip balls. Now look, I don't blame them for not wanting to be in a hospital while they were tripping, but I didn't want to be in one either, let alone alone by myself with my friend who was pretty much just zoned out. So, yeah, me and my friend get into the ER, we get our own room, and these doctors start coming in, and these nurses, and they're asking all these questions that he's not answering, and I'm like, hi, I'll be answering the questions. He's completely, like, freaked out. So I'm answering all of these questions while in the process of tripping. And some of these questions they're asking me, actually most of them, are things that only he knows. Like they were walking in and they'd be like, hey, does he have any underlying conditions? Like, heart condition, lung condition, autoimmune diseases, anything like that? And I was like, I have no idea. Like, I don't think so. And, things like that, they need to know. And I'm trying to ask him these things after they'd come in the room and I'd be like, yo man, like, do you got any underlying conditions? And he'd just be like, I don't think so. And I'd be like, all right, man, good enough. So he was trying to help as much as he could, but he was barely answering questions with how much he was freaking out. And a few minutes later, the main doctor comes into the room and he asked me if I could step out in the hall and talk to him for a bit. I'm like, yeah, sure. And we go out of the hallway and a nurse walks into his room and the doctor tells me, he's like, hey, so we're running some blood work right now. While we do that, I just wanted to ask you, were you guys doing anything at the party tonight that could have triggered his anxiety? I was like, hey, yeah, we did mushrooms together and it caused him some anxiety. He also smoked a little bit of weed, so that could have caused it as well. I think he's just generally an anxious kid and it didn't help. And he was like, totally fine. Like, this is not the first time I've dealt with stuff like this. And he was like, did he do anything else besides those two things? Anything more serious? And I was like, no, not that I know of. And he was like, all right, great. Like, just want to make sure so we knew what to do. And I was like, all right, cool. And keep in mind, the entire time I'm talking to this doctor, I'm just staring at his little ID card around his neck. He had like a lanyard with his ID card, and I'm just watching the reflections go off it, and they're like moving and stuff. And he sees me staring at this, and he goes, I can definitely tell you both are on it. And I was like, yeah. And he just starts laughing his ass off. And he's like, all right, you can go back in the room now. Like, thank you for your time. I'm like, no problem. So I go back into the room. My friend got his blood drawn. He was actually calmed down a lot. And it took quite a while, but the results basically said that he had nothing wrong with him. Like, they were testing for, I'm not sure what it is, but something in your blood that could mean you're having a heart attack and a whole bunch of other things they were testing for to make sure he wasn't dying. And yeah, they found out that he wasn't. And they ran x-rays and stuff of his chest to make sure his lungs were okay. And we were there for a solid like 4 to 5 hours. It was a long time. I was there for pretty much the majority of my trip, watching the fluorescent lights move, staring at people's ID cards, staring at the shitty food channel they had on the TV in my friend's hospital room. It just really was not a good place to be. Like, definitely one of my worst shroom experiences ever. So anyway, after hours and hours of being in the ER, finally the doctor came in. He said we were good to go. My friend just had to sign some discharge papers, which he did. And me and my friend left the hospital. We had no ride home because we took an ambulance there. So I had to call an Uber from the hospital back to my friend's house. And we're in this Uber for like 15 minutes. And this driver is the most talkative Uber driver in the world. Now, he was a super nice guy, don't get me wrong. But after just, enduring a mushroom trip in a hospital for 5 hours straight, and dealing with my friend who basically went AFK in real life. Like, that dude just checked out of his mind for like 5 hours and just barely talked and was panicking. And I understood, and I was trying to kind of keep him calm still because he was still kind of nervous when we were leaving the hospital. So this Uber driver talking and asking us questions about how hard we partied and how we ended up in the hospital was not the time for, those types of questions. But anyway, we got back to my friend's apartment. We went inside. All of my other friends were just sitting on my friend's couch, watching Netflix, eating junk food, like I said. And in the end, everybody was okay. My friend was good. He didn't have any health problems. He was just anxious. I was all good, even though I had a really, really bad time. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys all later. Peace. Cut ties, move to LA.